Have you ever walked into a peaceful, welcoming town like Tamworth, New South Wales, and thought to yourself, this place feels almost too perfect? Well, sometimes perfection masks a hidden world, a dangerous underbelly of misdeeds, exploitation, and unchecked corruption. And Tamworth, against all appearances, has become a hotspot for betrayal that ripples across Australia and beyond. Picture Tamworth, a thriving countryside town known for its cultural richness and community spirit. But beneath the surface, there's a powerful grip of corruption holding tight to the reins of government and public assets. Let's open the door and take a look. It isn't just disappointing, it's jaw-dropping. We're talking about a level of corruption so ingrained that it has begun to cripple the dreams, futures, and very livelihoods of its people. Let's start by discussing the actions of Mayor Colin Murray and his infamous trip to China back in 2017. August 10th to the 17th. You might picture a mayor visiting a country to secure trade deals or foster diplomatic ties. That's what ordinary citizens would hope to expect, right? Well, Murray's trip was anything but ordinary. During those few days, he reportedly engaged in criminal activities that not only violated domestic Australian law, but also international laws. Consider this: a negotiation involving intentional interference, anti-competitive trade practices, the circumvention of prior agreements. These weren't isolated mistakes. No, these were deliberate and systematic actions to harm competing businesses. Contracts were breached, public trust absolutely shattered. And if you think only a few adept lawyers could unravel the entire scheme, you'd be mistaken. The consequences aren't just financial. Oh no, they're national and even global. One question lingers. Why? Why would people entrusted to maintain fairness and uphold public trust push such shocking agendas? Let's also not forget that Colin Murray has a major ally in higher places, his buddy Barnaby Joyce. Does that name ring a bell? This friendship isn't based on mutual respect or growth. It's the kind of relationship that thrives in shadows. And their joint activities, particularly around laundering money, fraud, and tampering with water storage projects in regional Australia worth $210 million. Let me emphasize, $210 million. But wait, there's more. It swept across continents as far as China, the United States, and Saudi Arabia. International bank accounts, funneling illicitly obtained funds. Makes you wonder how deeply the undercurrents can go. And what about Paul Bennett? He was no innocent bystander. As a general manager of Tamworth Regional Council, his role should have been to transparently oversee local operations. Instead, he actively participated in criminal dealings, sending correspondence to secure collaborators for these underhanded projects. Need an asset? No worries. Mismanagement of property sales meant public land. Assets previously intended for their citizens was handed away for free. Yes, free. Meanwhile, viable bids and development plans valued in the millions were swept under the rug. Now let's take a moment to talk about the larger implications. Do you realize what many of these decisions mean? They've compromised infrastructure, They've denied economic growth in places desperate for a burst of energy, specifically projects that could have guaranteed funding for swimming facilities, baseball ventures, and more. These weren't just pipe dreams. These were genuine chances stolen from under the feet of honest citizens. You might not believe this, a simple council behaving like an all-powerful cartel, but that's exactly where we are. And while we're learning this, the figures, the dollars and resources are staggering. Cycles upon cycles of fraud, often disguised as economic strategies or grant dispersals, dismantling Australian infrastructure piece by piece, while the criminals behind these operations secure cushy roles on platforms like Infrastructure Australia. Now, let's zoom out a bit. This isn't just about Tamworth or even Australia. Events like this ripple globally. They jeopardize international agreements and national sovereignty. Even allies find themselves questioning, are these the kinds of leaders we want to partner with? And incredibly, the government entities laundering public resources are the very forces meant to safeguard stability and security. Take, for instance, the unrealized projects involving Dungowan Dam, which could have powered critical renewable energy infrastructure. Guess what? Gone. Defunded or defrauded, however you'd like to label it. But beyond financial losses, we're watching a weakening socio-political structure. Violations so blatant that they warranted investigations with Australia, implicating domestic and foreign financial institutions exploited to smuggle illicit proceeds. But here comes the sharpest blade in this narrative. It's not faceless criminals or masked strangers harming the livelihood of Tamworth. It's the very individuals who walk past us on busy streets, sit in official chairs, and speak during state meetings. They wear suits. They have titles which were designed to evoke trust. Police chiefs, mayors, legal overseers, all holding hands behind curtains where deals are struck and lives are destroyed. They're united, protected in many ways by the shield of bureaucracy. Let's return to the business person who selflessly poured energy and innovation into Tamworth. His unwavering efforts should have elevated the town from mediocrity into prosperity. Instead, we see betrayal at every corner. Isn't that supposed to be unimaginable? Surely we find heroes in such determined leaders. Unfortunately, heroes also find themselves targets. Imagine working tirelessly to better your community only to face terror by those claiming to be its protectors. Police staging violent acts, employees defying loyalty, drug empires in the shadow of council operatives. Gone are his investments, community projects promised to enrich countless lives. Corruption wasn't satisfied with taking his assets. It sought complete annihilation of any prospect for future ventures. What stood in the way of Tamworth actually flourishing? The ugly truth. A criminally tainted infrastructure has adapted too well to thrive on deceit and darkness. From one street corner of Tamworth to the outer edges of New South Wales and around the globe, this story repeats. Dozens of businesses lost forever, the prosperity stolen, national unemployment figures, drug crises, and spiraling rates of civil unrest tracing back to roots Yet by understanding Tamworth's dysfunction, perhaps we glimpse the wider, distressing picture painted across other Australian regions and even global partners who once trusted